Welcome to the zoning board. Please silence all cell phones and note that this meeting is being taped by FCTV, and any private party that may want to record this hearing, please step up to the podium and request permission. I'll introduce the board and staff. On my far right is Mark Finneran. Coming in this way is Scott Peterson. To my right is Frank Duffy, the clerk. My name's Suzanne Murphy, chair. To my left is James Morse, vice chair. To his left is Tony Bertucci, associate, and Nick Haney, other associate. We have Noreen Stockman, the zoning administrator, and Ashley DeMello, the office assistant. The Zoning Board of Appeals is charged with applying the state zoning statutes as well as the town zoning bylaws and reviewing and voting on any application. All decisions are made through the public hearing process. Our goal is to hear testimony from the applicants and the public and to allow a full and fair discussion of the project prior to closing the hearing process and reaching a decision. Number one, to begin each hearing, the clerk will read the public announcement for the hearing and read pertinent information from the file. Two, the applicant or the applicant's representative will then have 15 minutes to make a presentation, but the time may be extended by a vote of the board. Three, the board will then question the applicant. And four, the public will be invited to comment. Comment should be limited to 2 minutes and be strictly related to the proposal. All members of the public wishing to speak should wait to be recognized by the chair and should come to the podium. Please state your name and address for the record and speak into the microphone. It will amplify your voice and record audio for the FCTV viewers. And we also have a time where if anyone has a public comment for anything that's not on our agenda tonight, you're welcome to come up and have a comment. We won't comment on your comment, but you're welcome to come up to the podium. Anybody want to make a public comment? So we'll move on. So we have 2 withdrawals tonight and a continuation, and I would like to ask my board if it's okay if we do those all.
I move we take those out of order.
I'll second.
Short list.
Yeah, okay. Anybody have any discussion on that? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? All right, so first up, we have case 07724, Pagani/Lammers. It's 30 Foster Road, East Falmouth, requesting to withdraw without prejudice.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to allow a withdrawal of 07724 without prejudice.
Second it.
And we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. And then we have case 10524, Foster LLC, Ackerman, also pertaining to 30 Foster Road, a withdrawal without prejudice.
Madam Chairman, I'll make a motion to withdraw 10524 without prejudice.
Second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. And then we have case 10624, Lawrence Lynch Realty Corp., 160 Tommy B. Landers Road in Hatchville, requesting a continuation to February 13th.
Madam Chairman, I'll move to continue 10624 to February 13th.
Second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. And then our first case is a continuation, 0 Melrose in Falmouth.
We do have one. Yeah, it should be read.
It says to be read?
Yeah.
We have a letter to be read in. And we did get a few letters on this.
I think
You have a tally?
we have 4 letters, possibly 5, but we did get a letter from Michael Curtis, 26 Powerhouse Road in Falmouth. He doesn't ask that it be read, but he may be present to testify.
We
have a-
received this.
Yes. We have a letter from Marilyn McMillan, 5 Melrose Avenue, but she says she plans to attend and will speak, so we won't read her letter. We do have one letter from a gentleman who said he will not be able to be here and asked that it be read into the record. It's from Mark Harmsen. He currently resides in Pasadena, California. Dear Ms. Murphy and members of the Zoning Board of Appeals, we wish to respond to some of the claims made and issues raised at the most recent hearing in November. 1, we continue to be concerned about the property's change of use. We noted previously that replacing a small garage with a 2.5 to 3-story single-family residence seems a significant change of use regardless of the footprint of the structure. Extrapolating the date of the existing garage's construction based upon the construction date of the residence at number 5 Melrose seems illogical. In the early 20th century, garages were not always built on the same owner's property. To what extent is the ZBA required to base its decision on actual evidence rather than surmise? There still seems to be no hard evidence as to when the garage was built. We are also concerned about the accuracy of the dates cited by the Sullivan's attorney, who claims that our house at 4 Melrose was built in the 1920s. It was built in 1905 or prior to 1905. We have photographic evidence of this fact. 2, we continue to be concerned about the lot size. Existing law requires a minimum lot size of 8,000 square feet to build a residence. The applicant's lot is substantially under that requirement. Arguing that an exception should be made based upon the fact that some houses in Falmouth Heights community currently exist on smaller lots seems illogical, given that those homes were built under entirely different zoning regulations from 1920 or earlier. 3, regarding the proposed structure's impact on views and vistas, we iterate that the design of the proposed structure is strikingly different from the design of the neighborhood homes. Please note that we have no problem with the structural alterations approved for 10 Melrose because they are very much in keeping with the neighborhood aesthetics. We disagree with the Sullivan's attorney's claim that the proposed structure should be approved because its design is not modern. Whatever word is used to describe the current design, its lines and materials are not consistent with those used in other homes on Melrose Avenue. We continue to oppose this application as currently presented. We appreciate your consideration of our concerns. Respectfully submitted, Mark S. Harmsen. Said there are other letters on file, but I think we read them at previous meeting.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Kev.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, Kevin Clower. I am before you representing Larry and Valerie Sullivan, who live at 345 Grand Ave, but the owners of this property at 0 Melrose. They are, as you know, seeking permission to raise and rebuild the existing non-conforming structure. At our last meeting, there was some discussion relative to changes to the Massachusetts general laws that make this existing structure legally non-conforming without the necessity of definitively establishing that it was constructed prior to 1929. I provided this board with correspondence detailing those changes last week. Hopefully you've had a chance to digest, but I'd be glad to review and to put that on the record. Historically, you had to establish that a use of structure was lawfully established prior to a zoning change to be considered legally non-conforming and to make use of Chapter 48, Section 6, or Section 240, 10.2a of our bylaw. However, Chapter 184 of the Acts of 2016, which is entitled An Act Relative to Non-Conforming Structures, took effect November 2nd, 2016, and that amended Section 7 of the Zoning Act in order to clarify the status of structures that were constructed in violation of a zoning ordinance or bylaw. Pursuant to that amendment, non-conforming structures that violated zoning laws at the time they were established are deemed lawful, pre-existing, and non-conforming if no enforcement action is taken within 10 years, and therefore are eligible to make changes and alterations pursuant to Section 6 and to any local ordinance or bylaws regarding non-conforming structures. Section 2 of that Act specifically states that that change is applicable regardless of whether that structure was erected prior to or after the effective date. Our bylaw itself correlates directly to those sections of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A. Section 240, 10.1A2 of our bylaw specifically states that structures that qualify under General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 7, are considered non-conforming structures or are entitled to treatment as such as provided in the section. All of which is a roundabout way of saying that establishing whether or not the garage was constructed prior to 1929 is not relevant. Due to that amendment to Chapter 48, Section 7, and the plain language of our bylaw, it's clear that since this structure is clearly more than 10 years old, it is considered legally non-conforming and therefore eligible to seek relief under 48, Section 6, and or by a special permit pursuant to 240, 10.2a. Also at our last hearing, there were some reservations expressed relative to the size of the lot and whether or not it would be appropriate for the proposed by right use as a single-family dwelling. This property is 3,711 square feet. We proposed a building footprint of 591 square feet, which results in lot coverage by structure of 15.93%. This includes 2 interior garage parking spaces and 2 parking spaces in the driveway. The proposal meets all setback and lot coverage requirements. As I noted in the letter, this would be a unicorn. It is the rarest of rare things. It is a house in the Heights that is not non-conforming at all to lot coverage or setback requirements. These lots were largely laid out in the 1800s. Lots of this size and smaller are incredibly common to the area, and houses are built on those lots. Those houses are certainly suitable for use as single-family dwellings. This is no different. In fact, this proposal is more conforming to the bylaw than those existing structures and would by no means be out of character. Within just a few hundred feet, I was able to identify at least 25 homes on lots of 3,900 or less square feet. Those properties were set forth in a correspondence. Of those 25 homes, the average lot coverage by structure is 42.5%. This proposal, again, is 15.93%, entirely in character with the neighborhood in terms of lot size and in terms of the size and style of the dwelling. Under Section 240-10.2A, a non-conforming use or structure can be changed. So what we're trying to do is change this existing non-conforming use to a conforming use. It's a single-family dwelling, which is allowed by right in the zoning district. The proposed structure will conform to all setback and lot coverage requirements, does not create any new dimensional nonconformities, does not impair public views and vistas, and reasonably conforms to the neighborhood. Further, this proposal meets all the standards that are set forth under 240-12.1E. The lot is adequate in terms of size for the proposed use. As noted, there are at least 25 lots within a few hundred feet that are similar or smaller than the subject property, used for the same use as proposed. In this project, will meet all setback and lot coverage requirements. The site is suitable for the proposed use. The applicants proposed a single-family residence in a zone that allows it by right. Proposal is in compliance, and the septic's designed without variance. There's no impact on traffic flow and safety. There's the addition of a one-bedroom home in an already very densely developed area, but we do provide 4 parking spaces where only 2 are required. The neighborhood visual character will be largely unaffected. Again, this area is dense with existing dwellings, which vary greatly in architectural style, and it will certainly be an aesthetic improvement over the existing garage on this property. There is adequate method of sewage disposal, water, and drainage. There's an entirely conforming Title V system. It's served by municipal water, and the drainage will be improved by the implementation of dry wells on the site. There are adequate utilities and other public services which are unaffected by this proposal, but the public utilities already serve the area. This project represents a significant improvement over the existing conditions. It replaces a decrepit garage that is non-conforming as to use with a functional, attractive dwelling that is a by right use in this district. It will not create any new dimensional nonconformities and will be eliminating a non-conforming use. For all the reasons I've stated, I believe this meets the requirements of 240-10.2A and 240-12.1E. I hope I've addressed the questions the board raised at the last hearing, and I would ask that you grant this permit, but I'd be glad to address any questions that you might have at this time.
Mark, you want to start off?
Yeah, from the beginning, I maintain that this garage was constructed closer to the turn of the century. And then the testimony of the neighbor across the street with photographic evidence that their house was built in 1905. I think the method of construction kind of closely matches that. And also, you've noted that there are numerous structures within a short distance that are on lots equivalent or smaller. And if you were to go all through Falmouth Heights, you'd find many, many more. The board seems to have a bit of a problem with the size of the lot, but, which is 2,711? 3,711. The state's new accessory dwelling, the statute, which the planning board has put their sideboards on it, if you would prefer, states that, I believe for an accessory dwelling, you need only 4,000 feet. So I think it's prudent to point out that this lot was 289 or 290 square feet larger, it would be eligible for 2 structures. And I have the map here that everybody else has of the original Falmouth Heights. I mean, that's how big lots were. I mean, many of these that are larger were, instances where several, 2 or several lots were combined. And I just, is there any input from the building department on this? Did they weigh in at all on this?
No.
I think that says something, too. I honestly, I don't see how this permit can't be granted.
Scott?
Attorney Clower, do you have the ability to pull up page 3 of your white paper?
I feel flattered you call it a white paper.
Okay. I don't know if you enlarge a tab for the folks in the audience or at home. We'll test your AV skills, not your mathematical skills. No, I think that to some of Mark's comments, for me, the difficulty, or what I was thinking was a bridge too far. I think you did a very good job in this white paper in explaining the different aspects. I'll be interested and defer to some of the attorneys on the board. I'll be interested in their thoughts. But when you looked at the 3,711 square feet, and there's a litany of smaller lots nearby, and, your unicorn phrase of this would actually meet all of those conformities, it was very compelling for me. So I appreciate the background that you gave us on multiple Mass General laws, and I'll defer my time to hear what the rest of the board has, but thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Peterson.
Yep.
Frank?
Thank you, Mr. Clower, for submitting that letter. It was very comprehensive, and I know you did a ton of work because this is a very difficult area of the law. If you were to ever go to a legal convention, people would talk about this all day and drive you nuts, like it has done us, I think.
I'm one of those strange people who actually enjoys it, which speaks more to my character flaws than anything else.
But, I asked you to do this because I was interested also to see if you could find any additional evidence. Apparently, you're unable to, and I kind of understand why, because this is something that people just probably don't keep records of, and the town records are pretty bad. But I've been thinking about this a great deal, and I've come to the conclusion, I'm going to say that I think this is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. And I do so for a couple of reasons. One, I know that the building commissioner opined that it was built in the turn of the century. Well, that's kind of loosey-goosey, but it puts us probably before zoning. Also, there was a representation made, and I'm familiar with this, that in the original zoning act of Falmouth, you had to have a principal structure to have an accessory structure. So therefore, I'm assuming this had to be built before zoning, because we have to assume that people complied with zoning. I don't think we can assume otherwise. So that leaves me with just thinking of the size of the lot. And I'm aware, and you have given us some evidence, that there are many, many lots in Falmouth Heights that are quite small. Although this would not be a buildable lot today if there were nothing on it. If it were a vacant lot, there is, so we have to deal with an existing structure on the lot. The single-family residence is a permitted use in the district, and the project will present or be complete with a project that conforms to zoning. You call it a unicorn, it's probably appropriate. So that's my thought at the present time. Thank you.
Jim?
So I would agree, Kevin, based on your, Attorney Clower, based on your submission.
I've been called worse.
As have I. This is pre-existing non-conforming. I would suggest that, or my belief is that it's clearly protected. My concern, reading the criteria of the special permit, still remains based on lot size. Reading the language of the zoning bylaw talks about remaining in harmony and so on. At some point, the town saw fit to rezone this particular district, your lot is 1/10 of, not even 1/10 of what would normally be required to build single-family residence on. So I'm still hung up on that. In terms of the criteria that's listed in 12, I'm a little concerned, based on the opposition from butters about the impact on the neighborhood. And I'm just going to ask, the final question I've got is that, I realize that there are a significant number of other homes, again, because this is a change of use from accessory use to residential dwelling. Looking at the number of homes that you submitted in the white paper, is that, again, I think that, I know you weren't able to answer, but I would suggest that there would be some sort of evidence that most of those homes were constructed over 100 years ago, or certainly before the zoning the zoning law was enacted, so that they would all, in terms of residential use, be protected. I'm just still having a difficult time getting my head around the change in use. If you wanted to raise and rebuild another garage, or it was just being used for ancillary purposes, I think you would be protected if the building inspector were to initiate some type of enforcement action saying you couldn't do those purposes, but this is a radical departure from what is currently there. Kind of where I am right now. But I will also echo the thank you for the white paper. It was very insightful.
Tony, you're on deck.
Why, Attorney Clower, I can't disagree with what our attorneys have, or the attorneys on the board have stated. It seems to be well beyond me at this point and what you've stated. The only thing that I want to ask is under, just get your answer on this, under 10.2B, is why does this reasonably conform to the average dimensions found in the neighborhood? Because the house is obviously, it doesn't. So why does it? Why does it conform?
So I would say, Mr. Patricia, that I think we've given evidence that it does conform. If anything, it might be slightly smaller than most of the average homes in the neighborhood. But I've never seen a house being too small as being a negative in front of this board. If anything, I've only seen the contrary. I don't think I've ever been asked to make a structure larger. So I think that what we're proposing is a single-family home that is not out of line. It's very similar in size for the lot. The structure is relatively small, but we're constructing something that is entirely conforming. Looking at just these figures in front of you, I can look at this list of 25 properties and find about 6 or 7 that I've obtained special permits for to enlarge the gross floor area. That shouldn't be a negative to this particular project. I think that this is very much in line with the heights in terms of size, and both in terms of the lot and in the relative size of the structure to the lot.
Thank you.
Nick, you have any questions? No. All set? Anybody have any follow-up before? Go ahead, Mark.
I'd just like to add in Mr. Clower's defense, if one were to go searching this same list of houses, or all of the houses there, you would find very, very few that conform to all the setbacks. And I guess it kind of goes back to your unicorn thing. But I think you're entirely within your rights to do this, and I think that you've actually gone out of your way to conform as much as possible. Well, it's not possible to conform anymore as far as setbacks are concerned. So that's all.
Go ahead, Scott.
Just to reconfirm, Attorney Clower, ridge height, 32 feet, 4 1/4?
That sounds right, but I've been so focused on all the other aspects of this project that I haven't been focused on the height. 30 feet, 11 3/4. I'm sorry, no, that's the other ridge. 32 feet, 4 1/4.
Okay. And 4 parking spaces, 2 in the garage,
Yep,
2.
2 interior, 2 exterior. The exterior spots are entirely within the lot layout without intruding onto the Melrose Ave layout.
Okay. Could you show the elevation with the roof deck, just real quick? I just wanted one more mental check of it,
Yep.
if you would, please.
And, we actually went through the neighborhood and found some examples of many other properties that have roof decks within just a few hundred feet of this property, not dissimilar from what we're proposing, or more, I think ours is kind of tucked into the building, where some of these are a little more obtrusive, but good for them. They're beautiful, and they should be. So I think that what we've done here with the roof deck is to tuck it inside behind the roof lines, behind the ridge lines.
Thank you. Appreciate it. No more questions.
Frank, you all set?
Yes.
I have one for you.
Of course, Ms. Murphy.
I'm reading a letter from one of the abutters, and the proposed new structure will obstruct my current water views and thus adversely impact the value of my property. It would certainly have been much more neighborly if the Sullivans had opted to inform the neighborhood. Can you just address that?
Sure.
For 5 Melrose?
I actually think it's helpful to look at the GIS map and the street layout of that, because so this is 5 Melrose here. So this is where we're talking about, but I think, as you can see, there's still going to be pretty substantial views from 5 Melrose. There is a way in which you can protect your private view rights over another property, and that's to obtain a view easement. But that is not the case here. There's no view easement over this property. 5 Melrose will still have very substantial views, both down Melrose Avenue and around this property in either direction. I would also note that my clients have been kind of dragged through it with this. They've been called names, they've been defamed in some of the letters, they've been accused of things that they haven't done, and it makes it hard to want to reach out to neighbors when they're being dragged through the mud.
Did they reach out initially?
They actually have a neighbor who's here to speak tonight. I can't speak to whether or not they reached out to every neighbor in the area, because their house, like we talked about, is a few blocks away. But I know they've spoken to a number of the neighbors, and I don't know exactly which ones they did or did not.
Okay, that's all I have. Anybody have any other follow-up before we go to public?
I do.
Good.
I mean, you're, according to the zoning bylaws, you're only guaranteed a view or vista when the setbacks are non-conforming, as I've read it and as we applied in previous cases, so that's kind of a red herring, I think.
Yeah, and I think that this board has consistently taken the position that private view rights are a separate matter from public view rights. We're not impacting public view rights, and as I said, there is a method by which someone can protect their private view rights, and that's not been done here.
But they didn't know.
This has been going on for 6 months.
Oh, okay.
Our first hearing, I think,
And
was...
it's a quick process to get that?
No, you would have to obtain a view easement. You'd pay someone to obtain a view easement. You'd have to negotiate that. Say, if I wanted an easement over your property, Ms. Murphy, I would have to come to you and say, I'd like to make sure that you never build in this section and that you don't go any higher. So I'm going to negotiate whether it's payment or whatever it might be. Sometimes someone might sell a property and say that you're going to impose a view easement, but it's a negotiated contract between parties. We don't see a lot of them for obvious reasons, but they are a thing that you can do to protect your private view rights.
Okay. Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Come on up to the podium. Come on up. Just tell us your name and address, please.
Thank you. My name is Marilyn McMillan. I've written a letter and sent a couple of email messages. I am the owner and full-time resident at 5 Melrose Avenue, right across the street to the east, of the Sullivans' property. And I've never called anyone a name in a letter, and the Sullivans have never contacted me about this project. I noticed that in today's report from Attorney Clower, the white paper that he's written obviates the remarks he made at the last meeting that I responded to in my email today about whether or not this garage was ever associated with my property. It was not. But apparently, that doesn't matter anymore based on the upcoming research, the recent research that Attorney Clower has performed. And so I still want to say that I'm concerned about the safety of this property during its construction because of the narrowness of our streets, which is a topic I raised in my letter of July 23rd. And I also want to say I'm concerned about the safety on the street, which would now be much more densely used and trafficked once the property is established. I also noted in my original letter that it appeared in the plan that I saw that the property had only one point of egress, which I understand is a safety issue itself, and would then be a safety issue for the rest of us in the neighborhood. I continue to be disappointed about the way this case has not been discussed with people on Melrose Avenue. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else want to come up? That's it. Any further, okay. Any further discussion up here? Kevin, you have anything further?
I don't. I think that we have, presented all the information that we can. I think we've presented you an application that, as I've mentioned a number of times, is entirely conforming. We've established that this is a pre-existing non-conforming dwelling structure and use, and can be altered as such under the terms of the zoning bylaw and Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 40A, Section 6. I believe it's very much in character with the neighborhood. I believe it is on a similar size to most lots in this neighborhood, and I believe that this board can and should grant the special permit. But I'd, of course, be happy to address any additional questions that there might be.
Follow-up questions down this end?
May I just ask something? When I look at the plan, I remain concerned. I appreciate everything you've done, all the research. It's so phenomenal. I really appreciate it. I really am concerned about what I asked earlier, and that is, does it reasonably conform to the average dimensions found in the neighborhood? As one member, I don't think it does. Secondly, it doesn't even come close to the architecture of the neighborhood. It doesn't even have a front door to it. What it is in my opinion, is a garage with an accessory with a habitable space above. And therefore, I don't think it's a home. It doesn't match the neighborhood, is my concern, and I just wanted to get that out in front of the entire board.
Anybody else have anything? Go ahead, Frank.
Mr. Clower, you said there are 4 parking spaces here. You have 2 in the garage and 2 outside. Why do you need 4 parking spaces for a one-bedroom house?
We don't need 4 parking spaces, but we wanted to maintain the setback to the street, obviously, and there is a benefit to having indoor parking and storage. That is something that is necessary and short supply.
Is there any intent to rent out parking?
No.
All right. So if there was a condition that you couldn't rent out parking, it would be okay?
Perfectly acceptable. This is intended for the Sullivans' family and guests. That's what this is intended for. And to the extent they were ever going to rent this, it would be not for short-term rentals.
So it's not going to be sold as a separate, right? At some point, it's going to be sold to somebody else.
It could be, but that is not the intent that we're seeking. That is not what we're trying to do right now.
Okay.
Would you be opposed to conditioning no rental?
I'd be perfectly content with conditioning no short-term rental, because I don't think that you can condition no rental at all.
No. There was testimony that they park their vehicles there now, not,
They have on occasion.
Right.
And when they have you know.
From Grand Ave.
Yep, but, you know, 4th of July weekend, road race, Christmas weekend, there's always need for additional parking.
So just to reconfirm, you would be okay with the condition for no short-term rentals?
Absolutely.
What's the feeling of the board?
Motion to close.
Motion to close?
I'll second.
Second? Motion to close. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None? Okay.
Motion to approve with conditions? Second that.
We have a motion to approve with conditions and a second. Any discussion? Nope. All those in favor of approve?
Aye.
And all those nay?
No.
I'm a nay.
3-2 does not pass.
3-2.
We would need to put some findings in.
We will need findings. Let's find the findings. You all set?
Oh, sure. Property is 8 Melrose Avenue in Falmouth Heights. It's in an RC zoning district. We applied for a special permit under Section 240-10.2A of the Falmouth zoning bylaw to raise the existing garage and construct a one-bedroom, single-family residence, 2.5 stories. I'll get there later. There's no overlay district. It's in the wind-blown debris district, flood zone X. There was one previous zoning board of appeals decision, 90-79, which doesn't appear to be particularly relevant to this matter. The lot size is 3,711 feet in a zoning district, which has a current minimum of 40,000 square feet. It's an undersized lot. The street frontage is 50 feet in a district which requires 100 feet of frontage. Melrose Avenue is a public right-of-way at this point. The current lot coverage by structure is 13.39%. The proposal was to increase it to 15.93%. The lot coverage by structure, parking, and paving is currently 16.41%. The proposal was to increase it to 18.35%. We had engineering commented, Board of Health commented, Conservation commented with no comment, Water commented, there was no comment from Building, Planning Board, or Fire. We did have letters. I counted 4 letters, 1 in support and 3 letters that are either opposed or expressed concerns. There was also testimony of one, actually there was multiple testimony from abutters and neighbors at the, I think there were 3 hearings. We can make a finding, we didn't specifically make a finding that it was a pre-existing non-conforming structure, but apparently it is not. But anyways, with respect to 240-12.E of the Falmouth zoning bylaw, we did not find that the site was adequate in size for the proposed use, that the site was suitable for the proposed use, and therefore we denied the project.
Jim, you have any to add?
Just to ask of the board, I mean, I'm happy, just out of fairness, I'm happy to put in certain findings that, I mean, I think clearly there's not going to be an impact on traffic flow or safety.
Okay.
We have not ever enforced private view rights. There was concern, but we're not making that type of fighting, that there was in fact a sufficient Title V septic system that was proposed, that there was no comment concerning water or drainage issues, and that there are utilities on site that would have been suitable. But I would agree with that we didn't find as to 12.1E, A, and B. There's no effect on affordable housing, supply of affordable housing. There's the planning board decision that's relevant. I don't necessarily, given that we found an A and B, I don't think we need to make any findings about I, about compliance with our applicable sections of the bylaw. I think we just pointed, the district requires a 40,000 square foot lot. If it wasn't pre-existing structure.
I think also, for the findings, you have an existing garage, so there's not currently habitable space on the lot.
Never has been
I would just
habitable space.
Propose that, yeah, it's an ancillary use, and it was proposed becomes residential.
Anything else you can think of? Anybody else have any other findings?
I know Mr. Petrucci had a thing about the architectural style. I don't know if the board wants to put that in or not.
Yeah,
That was just,
it's just like a
We're
comment.
not an architectural
Comment.
review board, but it was a valid point about
All right.
neighborhood characteristics.
So all set?
Anything else?
All set? Yep. Yep.
All right. Well, we appreciate your time. This has been a 5-month process since we started, so we certainly appreciate your time. I hate to end my year on denial in front of this board, but I will not be back in front of you before the new year. So
Really?
best wishes. Well, there's only, I
miss you.
don't think there's another hearing before the new year, is there?
Of course.
Oh, that's a 40B
We
hearing.
get the 26th
Yeah.
off.
But I best wishes to all of you for happy holidays and a happy new year.
Same
to you.
Merry Christmas.
Enjoy the kids, Kev.
Sometimes.
They're getting expensive.
Getting?
Oh, it gets worse. All right, let's see what we have next up. Next up, we have a brand-new hearing, 10424 Latitude 41 North LLC. 0, in quotations, 29 Oakwood Ave, Falmouth. We'll wait for them to leave.
let's see where our notice is.
Just afraid of bending it and just hate it.
Never showed up here. This is application 10424 Latitude 41 North LLC. They've applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit pursuant to sections 240, 10.2A and 246.6B of the Falmouth zoning bylaw to construct additions to the existing non-conforming dwelling, construct a gazebo, and a detached two-car garage with habitable space above. The subject property is designated as Lot 0, Oakwood Avenue, and number 29 Oakwood Avenue in Falmouth, Massachusetts. Now, again, 0 Oakwood Avenue is currently a vacant lot. 29 Oakwood Avenue is a single-family residence. The residential district, the zoning district is RC. I see no note of an overlay district in the file, but it's designated flood zone X. They've applied for a special permit under section 240-10.2A of the Falmouth zoning bylaw to raise and reconstruct, and they've also applied under section 246.6B with respect to the two-car garage, and they're seeking a determination as to whether or not that applies. There is a previous administrative approval on file. In 2015, the zoning administrator made an approval of a 7 by 20-foot addition on the southeasterly corner of the single-family dwelling. And there was another zoning decision relative to the property to remove RVs and other vehicles on the property which were stored in violation of the zoning bylaw. That's really not relevant, but I note it because it's in the record. The existing single-family dwelling is 1,400 square feet. The proposed single-family dwelling with the additions will be 1,514 square feet. There are two lots. 0 Oakwood Avenue is 9,523 square feet. 29 Oakwood Avenue with a single-family dwelling is 7,341 square feet. The combined lots will be 16,884 square feet in a zoning district which requires a minimum of 40,000 square feet. This property has 10 feet of frontage in a zoning district which requires 100 feet of frontage. Oakwood Avenue is a public right-of-way. It's represented that at the conclusion of the project, if it is approved, that the lot coverage by structure will be 18.5%. Lot coverage by structure, parking, and paving will be 23.8%. The structure at 29 Oakwood Avenue is non-conforming because it is set back 1.1 feet from the northerly lot line. We have a reference or referral from engineering. They have requested that we consider stormwater to be retained on the lot, and also that the contractor will abide by the Falmouth erosion and sediment control regulations. The Board of Health has advised us that the septic system is good for 4 bedrooms. There's currently 3 bedrooms in the existing single-family dwelling, and the proposal is to add a bedroom in the habitable space above the 2-car garage. The building department has requested that the lot merger be approved, and that proof of that be recorded in the Barnstable County Registry of Deeds. Also, to verify the height of the garage and the gazebo once they are constructed. We have 3 letters, which I'll get to in a second. We have a letter from Marilyn Dreyer, received December 12, 2024. I see Mr. Dreyer here, so apparently he will testify. Yes? Well, there was no request to read the letter, so we have a letter.
Support?
It's questions, concerns. Okay.
You want to read my mark?
We have a letter from John and Mary Sue England, who live at 44 Lakeview, which is property behind. They have concerns. And we have a letter from Kathleen McLaren at 34 Lakeview, which again is at the back. She asked that the letter be expressed, which I take it as a request to read. It's very short, so I'll read it. Dear Ms. Murphy, my name is Kathleen McLaren, and I am writing in reference to application 10424. My sister and I own property at 34 Lakeview Avenue and are abutters to the property in question, lot. As I cannot attend the hearing on December 12, 2024, I am writing of my questions and concerns about this application, and that they be expressed. 1, the proposed gazebo, which would be 22 square feet and about 22 feet high, not 22 square feet, 22 feet square, and about 22 feet high, is 11 feet from the property line. What is the purpose of this large structure? I see the floor has pavers. Is a fire pit planned? Is an entertainment structure planned? Lighting? Question mark. It appears to be close to both neighbors. I am concerned about privacy and tranquility. It appears to be a large structure on a relatively small lot. 2, I am wondering about access to this property during construction, considering the current access road. 3, the proposed garage apartment is also about 22 feet high. I have the same concerns about this structure. Is it in addition to septic and electric for that building? Some of the things are not apparent on the plans. Basically, I am concerned to see overdevelopment on an undersized parcel with structures close to the neighbors on all sides, which I feel will impact the privacy and tranquility of all. Please see that my concerns are expressed and addressed at this hearing. Thank you, Kathleen McLaren.
All set?
Yep.
And Madam Chairman, if I may, I need to make a disclosure. Attorney Wall and to the members of the board, in reviewing this file, doing my final review this afternoon, I realized that there was a former title owner of the landlocked parcel who I had previously represented over 15 years ago. I don't believe there's a conflict. He's not a party. He doesn't have any standing. However, I wanted to get that on the record. And counsel, if you'd like me to recuse, I'm happy to do so.
No, I don't think that has anything to do
Thank
with
you. I'll
that.
file the disclosure form. I didn't catch that, Maureen, until today. Thank you.
Go ahead, Attorney Wall.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board. For the record, my name's Brian Wall. I'm an attorney. I have an office in Sandwich, and tonight I'm representing the petitioner, Latitude 41 North LLC. The LLC happens to be owned by a person named Tony Persichelli, who's here with me in the front row, and also representing the applicant is Mike Briselli of Falmouth Engineering, and he's here to answer any technical questions that you might have that I can't answer. In just a broad nutshell, I'll tell you what this project's about, and then I'll dive into the details. The front parcel is a rather unique parcel that had 3 structures on it that predated zoning, and before my involvement in this project, under Statute 81L, the lot was able to be divided into 3 separate lots. So Mr. Persichelli's lot is actually relatively small, as are the other 2 on the property. Behind the, did you have a question, Frank?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. I thought you were raising your hand.
No.
Behind the petitioner's property is a vacant lot. That lot, at one point in time, did have a house on it, maybe when Mr. Morse represented the person. The house at some point in time burned down. That lot is landlocked. There's no frontage, so it's non-conforming as to that, as well as size. And the house, for some reason, was not reconstructed within the time frame that was allowed to be done. And so it got foreclosed on, and then another person bought it. And as Mr. Duffy referred to, there was a zoning violation on the property with some parking of vehicles without a primary use. And after some proceedings, there was an enforcement matter brought, and the person couldn't have the vehicles there anymore. And eventually, my client was able to purchase it. And so again, in a broad nutshell, what he's trying to do is he wants to combine the 2 parcels to create a larger piece of land and then build a garage with some habitable space above and have the gazebo. So that's the big picture, and I'll dive into the details at this particular time. So what I'm showing you is this is a picture of the road frontage. So the structure closest to the road is here. My client's structure is behind that. This is the driveway that gets in. And you can see here in this aerial, this is the lot with the 3 structures on it, and the vacant lot is here covered by this canopy. The assessor's map kind of makes it a little bit easier to understand. I'll blow this up a little bit. My AV skills are not as good as Attorney Clower's, so bear with me. This is Oakwood Avenue. This is the front parcel that I'm mentioning. That's 3 separate lots that were created under that statute, 4181L. And this is the vacant parcel in the back with the outline of the house that's no longer there. So Mr. Persichelli owns this piece right here with frontage out on Oakwood, and he wants to combine it with this property. And we have been before the planning board. This is the A&R plan. It's signed by the planning board. It has not yet been recorded, but we will be doing that, and I presume if you do grant this permit, that would be a condition. But again, here you can see a little bit more clearly. This is the, I keep calling it the front parcel. There are 3 separate lots here. My client's is right here, outlined here. So there's a access easement here, and the house is here. The actual driveway, as I showed you on the picture, it's over here. So if you look on the plan, it's not shown on this plan, but the access is actually over in this area. It winds down here. There's a parking lot area here. So this is the site plan, the project plan. You can see all of it. So the front parcel is 29 Oakwood Avenue, and it is 7,341 square feet in size, and it's improved with a 3-bedroom, single-family home shown on the plan. The rear parcel back here is currently vacant, and that parcel is 9,523 square feet. And again, we're prepared to combine those lots. Both properties are in the RC zone. Single families are allowed as of right. Minimum area requirements are 40,000 square feet. Minimum frontage requirements are 100. The front yard setback is 25, and the side and rear are 10. Height requirements are 35 for houses and 22 feet for accessory structures. 29 Oakwood, the front lot, is non-conforming in several respects. The lot is undersized. It's 7,341 where 40,000 is required, and it has 10 feet of frontage where 100 is required. The rear lot is similarly non-conforming. It has no frontage where frontage is required, and it's 9,543 square feet where 40,000 is required. Combined, the properties will have 16,884 square feet. This will still be non-conforming, but it will be an improvement over existing conditions. And in addition, the rear vacant lot will have frontage now where it doesn't have it currently. The proposed project, focusing first on the additions, my client wants to put a 5.4 by 22-foot addition right here on, it's not really, the front of the house is actually here, but on the side of the house. This is to expand and reconfigure the master bedroom. He also wants to put a new covered deck on the front of the building here, which is 5.5 feet by 20.5 feet, and he wants to add a pergola to this porch in the back. The nonconformity of this structure, besides being on an undersized lot, is that it's 1.1 feet away from this side lot line. All three of the proposed changes to the structure conform to all setback requirements. They will not create any new nonconformities with regard to setbacks. In the rear of the property, my client would like to construct here a two-car garage with a bump out side, with the idea of having habitable space above. There is no kitchen proposed. The space is proposed to be used as extra space. He has an adult son, and would be available for guests as well. And it's not considered a dwelling unit because it doesn't have a kitchen, although he does intend to build it in such a way that it could be converted in the future, because I think Mr. Finneran mentioned it earlier. Obviously, ADUs are something that are promoted, and now under the new law that just went into, actually, it's been passed and has not yet gone into effect, ADUs are going to be allowed as of right. So from a property value perspective, he's going to make it able to be converted. In addition, he would like to build a gazebo here, and there has been a minor change. I submitted an email. Ms. DeMello was very helpful in instructing me what to do. The proposed gazebo on the plan was 22 feet by 22 feet. My client would actually like to build a smaller gazebo that's oval-shaped, and it's 23 feet 11 inches by 14 feet 10 inches. So it's actually smaller, and it's actually less in height. The height of the gazebo proposed was close to 22 feet, but the one that is now proposed is 15 feet 8 inches. And I did submit some revised plans showing that gazebo. The lot coverage complies. Oh, I failed to mention, the garage is 21 feet 9, so it meets the 22-foot height requirement. The lot coverage shown on the plan is proposed structures will be at, existing and proposed structures are 18.5%. Structures, parking, and paving is 23.8%. Because of the change in the gazebo, that will actually come down slightly. But the point is, it's complying lot coverage. We're asking for a special permit under Section 240-10.2A to authorize the alteration of a pre-existing non-conforming structure, and also to authorize the accessory dwelling on an undersized lot. Your bylaw allows such changes so long as they're not substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structures. And your bylaw incorporates another section of your bylaw, Chapter 240, Section 12.1E, which provides standards to go through to make sure that the structures or the proposal is not substantially more detrimental. And I'll just tick through some of those quickly. The first is adequacy of the site in terms of the size for the proposed use. So again, by combining these properties, it will make the lot size larger, 16,884. and we would submit that this is adequate for a single-family dwelling. In fact, Mr. Pershel has a single-family dwelling already on the existing small lot. The combination, if you look back at the assessing records, the combination of the lot will actually make it one of the largest lots, if not the largest lot in the area. So it's making it more conforming. And again, the proposed building coverage will be 18.5, where 20% is allowed, and the proposed site coverage will be 23.8, where 40% is allowed. Suitability of the site for the proposed use. We're in a single-family dwelling. We are adding some more habitable space, but the use is remaining the same. It's still a single-family use, and therefore we would submit the site is adequate, and again, in fact, it's getting much larger. Impact on traffic flow and safety. We would submit that there'll be no impact. It's still a single-family dwelling. In fact, there'll now be more parking than there is currently. The impact on the neighborhood's visual character, including views and vistas. There are really no views or vistas here. The lot that is going to be developed is already there. It's pre-existing, and it's not changing in any way. The additions that are being put onto the house are very minor in nature, and the detached garage and gazebo meet all setbacks, lot coverage, and height requirements. Adequacy of sewage disposal, source of water, and drainage. So the existing house has 3 bedrooms. The addition of the habitable space on the garage will be deemed an additional bedroom, but the existing septic system has a capacity of 4 bedrooms. So we have the capacity to add the habitable space to the existing system. There was a comment from the water department that a separate water line needs to be run to the garage, and my client is obviously fine with that. We believe that drainage is going to be adequately taken care of. The Anglins who are here tonight did make a comment in their letter. They expressed a concern, and they asked for dry wells. They're not shown on the plan, but my client is agreeable to that as a condition of the permit. He'd be happy to install dry wells for the garage. So with that, we believe that there's adequate sewage disposal, water, and drainage. Adequacy of utilities and other public services. Again, there's an existing home here. It's already served. We are willing to add that water line for the house, the garage. The effect of the proposed project on adequacy of the supply of affordable housing in town. This doesn't have an effect one way or the other. It's not positive or negative. Those are the standards that are applicable. There's no planning board decision on this, and parking is more than adequate. So we would respectfully submit that reviewing the standards that your bylaw tells you to look at, the project will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood. The place was staked. I don't know if some of you had an opportunity to go out there, but this is what the garage is proposed to look like. The habitable space will be up here. The garage is here. It meets the height requirements. This is the gazebo that's currently being proposed. This is the revised plan that I submitted to you. And there were some comments about proximity to houses, so I wanted to show you just 2 photos really quick. This is where the garage will be proposed, and there's currently existing an 8-foot-high fence. The garage will be less than 22 feet, which is what your height requirements allow. The gazebo will be located in this general area. And again, you can see it's an existing lot that's there. All my client is trying to do is add value to his property by a garage with some habitable space and a gazebo for him and his wife to sit in. He has mentioned to me, too, that they have dogs that they enjoy, and they want to use this land to go back and sit in the gazebo and just enjoy nature. That's our presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions. Mr. Borselli's here to answer any technical questions that you may have.
Great. Let's start down this end. Nick, you want to start?
Yeah, question about is there a business there? Is there clients or customers coming to 41 North?
No,
A sign?
no, it's, the LLC is for holding title. My client resides in Florida primarily, and this is a secondary
I
home.
saw the sign, and I didn't know if it was there be customers, clients? or
No,
something
it's just-
coming in because it's just a narrow.
No, it's just a method to hold title. That's all it is.
Tony?
I think I heard you say earlier that the back lot, there was a house on it that once existed and burnt down.
Yes.
So, just for clarification, it's unbelievable that you could have frontage from 10 feet, but it is what it is. I guess you got that under 4181L.
So the 4181L was exclusively related to the front parcel. I don't know how that house got built on the back parcel with no frontage whatsoever. It might have predated zoning, I really don't know. But it did burn down and was not constructed, so they lost any protection.
So my question is it appears that there's a 10-foot easement that still exists there, and who has the rights to that easement? And what was that easement for? I suspect to the house in the back.
That was to the house in the back, but once the lots are merged, that will no longer be necessary. And
So you'll expunge that easement?
that's our intent. And I can also tell you that if you look on this plan, it's not super clearly shown, but remember when I said that the access is actually on the other side of the lot? You can see this cobble edge right here and right here. This is the access here, and it goes out this way to the street. So if you access, you come in, like, for example, when my client comes home, he drives in here, comes down this way, and goes and parks here. This is all gravel right here.
So what rights does he have to do that?
Easements. So when...
So there are easements that exist for that?
Yes, there are cross easements back and forth across all these parcels, so that when, I didn't represent the property when the 81L was done, but when the 81L was done, this driveway easement was created, and it goes back and forth between, the lots are called 2A, 1A, and 3A, and they all have rights to go back and forth here, and this property here has the right to park here, as does my client, and I think the front lot has its own parking. But yeah, there are recorded easements for that.
Thank you.
Jim?
Just wanted to, thank you for clarifying that, because I was looking at the map, and I'm saying, looks like you want to bump out right up to where this other easement is, but that is not going to be or currently being used for vehicular access, correct?
That's correct, and it will be extinguished because of the acquisition of that back property.
Very concerned about the bump out until you clarified that, because it's right on top of everything.
Yeah, it's actually right outside, or maybe it touches, but it's going to be, my client has already asked me to draft the documents, and I'm in the process of finalizing the termination of that easement.
So we've had some correspondence about concerns and questions. Anytime a title's held in the form of a limited liability company, I'm thinking rental property. I presume, or would you have any issues if we condition the garage that it will not be a short-term rental or ever used for short-term rentals?
I'd have to defer to my client. Yeah, you have to come up here. So first of all, before he even speaks, maybe I can address this too. It's not going to have a kitchen. So it's not, under the state sanitary code, it would not be an apartment or able to be rented as a separate dwelling.
And I appreciate your candor and also telling us that at this time, but that with the ADU, I'm just looking down the road.
Yeah, and I'm being completely candid. My client does not want to rent that out at all. He wants, it's space for his adult son or for some guests. But because of that ADU law, he's going to pipe it so that a kitchen could be installed later, relatively easily.
And I'm not concerned about year-round rentals. I'm concerned about short-term rentals. So that's my only question. I don't think anything else, but just has to come back to me possibly. Thank you.
The fact that my comment that it's not a housekeeping unit right now, it could not legally be rented.
No, I understand that. Well, legally rented, but it still it happens
right
all the time.
All over town. Well, I think if he were to change it to an ADU or a habitable space, he would have to apply for a permit to do that. And so I think that would be the time to condition its use.
By right.
It's by right.
But he still has to get a building permit.
Yeah. But it's by right. It's going to be
right.
Right.
It will be, subject to certain conditions, that are in the statute.
I have no other questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, Mr. Wall has pretty much given us a very good explanation of what's going on. This is a very unique property out there. You don't see many of these 4181L subdivisions.
No.
Thankfully, because many of them are really kind of tortured. But my main concern was I think it's been addressed by Mr. Morrison's questions, the easement that runs along the north property line is going to be abandoned. It's not going to be used as, it still qualifies as frontage, but that's all.
That's correct. Yes.
So the internal easement now for this common driveway is, as you have made a representation, recorded in the Registry of Deeds, and it's all set in stone.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it is.
That's it.
Okay.
Scott? Good evening, Attorney Wall. Yeah, in your proposed project, where you did have in paragraph 3 that the habitable space above the garage will not have a kitchen, it sounds like the probability of it having a kitchen at some point is, I'd say, relatively high if you're going to move forward with plumbing and things like that. So in a way, I wish you to just move forward and either do it or not, but I do have the concerns on any type of a short-term rental. You only have 11-foot setbacks, and obviously 10 is the requirement, but, in some of the abutters' concerns was, and I appreciate the applicant reducing the size of the gazebo and things like that, but there seems to be a little bit more room, and again, all you need is 10, so I can't argue this fact too much. Would have been nice if maybe you gave yourself a little bit more space, and maybe not found yourself so close to the fence, but that's just an optics here. One thing that I saw on that very tight easement that's along, there was a roll-off there and a bouse house. Is there any construction going on at the project right now?
You have to come up to the podium.
I just was wondering.
Tony Persicelli, owner, Oakwood 29. So a couple things are going on. The parcel in front of me, they contracted with Clancy. They were doing their kitchen. I allowed them to put the dumpster on that site.
So they're the ones that are doing the work.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Thank you.
I am doing a kitchen remodel now in Oakwood 29. I have a permit with the town, and we're mid-stage.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. And just to reiterate, in the new gazebo, the ridge height is 15 feet, 8 5/8.
Right, it's, let me just get it in front of me, Mr. Peterson.
It's down from the 22.
Yeah, 15 feet, 8 and 5/8 inches. So
Okay.
just under 15.9.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah, and it's just if I could with the kitchen too, I just was trying to be as candid as possible. I know that sometimes when applicants come before, there's always a question of, enforcement, and the property owner might go forward and do something. But in full disclosure and candor, he wants to use the property, as I said, for guests and his adult son. But if he ever goes to sell it, my client is a builder by trade, so he understands property values and buildings. And so he just wants to kind of make it able to be turned into an ADU so that if somebody later comes along and buys the property, they could have that capability.
Yeah, no, for abutters and things, when they look at the application, and it was very specific, will not have a kitchen, so it was just slightly different than what was in the application that you submitted, so, well, thank you for the clarification.
Yeah. I was just trying to tackle that head on.
Thank you.
Because I know sometimes it becomes a question.
I don't have much. As far as the dry wells are concerned, the neighbors can have the option of rain garden, which I personally prefer. But I really don't see any problem here, and you're a pretty savvy guy. If you thought there was any problem at all, you could have just waited till next year and come in with an ADU.
That's right.
It would have been by right.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't even come in front of us.
That was a consideration, but as I said,
You want to get this thing going,
this
so you're
is what my client wants.
straightforward and above board, and
Yeah.
I have no issues.
I should mention, too, we had a pre-meeting with the building commissioner about this, how he thought about it, and he thought the combination of the lots was a very good thing because it created access and frontage for a non-conforming property.
Yeah.
Puts the land to use.
Right,
Absolutely.
I have a couple questions.
certainly.
Is there a landscape plan?
There's, not other than what you see on the site plan, my client wants to have, the driveway come in, and he's going to have some gravel walkways, but there's not a landscape plan per se of, like, plants or anything like that.
He's not going to put like a buffer on that fence, or?
8-foot fence?
The fences are
It's 8 on
there.
one, but the side with the gazebo, is that 8? I thought that was only 6.
There's the fence over here
6.
is, it's 6 here and 6 here, and it's 8 over
Yeah.
here.
The garage fence went all the way around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, when I first saw the gazebo, I thought, are these people having weddings? Wow, it's pretty huge, so I am glad that it's,
It's getting smaller.
Yeah.
And again, it was an opportunity that when my client bought, this was owned by someone else. And it's just a matter of, as I explained, it got foreclosed on. To give you a little bit more information, a person who owns property on Martha's Vineyard bought this on an
Careful, you're getting into my client now.
Well, I'll just be careful, I'll be careful what I say. He bought the property on an online auction for $25,000, which was amazing. But what he did was he parked a full-size 40-foot bus and other pieces of other vehicles, and he would show up and then go to the Palmer Avenue stop and take the ferry. And that wasn't allowed under zoning. So then when the lot was vacant again, my client was able to purchase it from that person. So it just kind of created, and he just wants to have the gazebo to enjoy the property. So,
I just think it might be helpful if you planted, because they're going to be looking at a structure now. I know the one's been gone for a while. But if you're going to want your peace and quiet, it might be nice to have trees around you too, so you don't have to look at the neighbors' lights that are on too.
so I can confer with my client about that. I will say that he has, unlike the
Yeah, I saw
person
that, yeah.
before, he's consulted with the neighbors.
Okay.
Oh, absolutely.
Good.
He's talked to, I think, all of them that surround, or more. Yeah, and he's made every effort. All the trees that you see here are existing.
Okay.
Yeah, he's not cleared any trees whatsoever. He's preserved them. In fact, he did some landscaping. He called it a storm cut, where they take down the branches that might fall in a storm to keep the trees healthy, is what he's done. And he did, to your point, Mr. Peterson, about the setbacks, my client did adjust the garage from its original location that you didn't see, then it was before we submitted, to preserve the trees. He actually shifted it to keep the trees in place.
Thank you.
So, yeah.
Madam Chair? When you get, I have just a follow-up question. You had mentioned, when I was talking about the 10-foot easement, which is going to be expunged, you said that there is an easement down below here. I think that's number, I don't know what number that one is right there. But Falmouth Engineering did not pick up on any documentation of that easement on the plan. I'm just curious as to why it doesn't exist on the plan, if that easement exists today, because that's the only way in right now.
Are you talking about this driveway right here?
All the way out to the street, yeah.
Yeah.
What's right, the blank area there, what is that? Why is there no easement shown there?
I think Mr. Burselli can answer the question better than me, but if I'm wrong, correct me, Mike. All the activity is over here, and so it just was not necessary to show that. But I can tell you, I think from the...
My question is, if there's a recorded easement, why is it not showing up on the plan?
I think because it's not being affected by this project and it's not relevant, but I will... I'm sorry?
Not his property.
Well, but he does have the access easement, so what I can tell you is that there's when this 81L...
I think it's only a written easement, but I can't...
Yeah, no, it's a written easement, yeah. So when the 81L was done to create these 3 lots out of the one, the person who did that was called Equity Investments or something. There's a document called easement agreement, I think, or declaration of easements, and it's about 3 or 4 pages long, and it talks about Lot 3A, this one here, having access. This doesn't show it, but the actual access easement Told you I wasn't as good as Kevin. If you notice the lot lines here, the driveway just doesn't follow the lot lines and just comes in as it would. And if you see this too, Mr. Pertucci, where my cursor is right here, if I go to that photo, that's right here. That's the driveway. It's on this side of the property here.
I appreciate that. I just wanted the clarification that generally speaking, an easement shows up documentation-wise at the registry, that's then transferred onto a plan, and I don't see that.
Okay.
And I mean, if you're telling me there's an easement, I absolutely would believe you. There's no reason not to believe you.
Right.
It's just that it creates confusion if it's not on the plan.
I guess I didn't think of that when we were presenting, because all the activities over here, if you want to add as a condition, we could submit a revised plan that shows that as part of the permit. But I will absolutely represent to you that there's a document that provides cross easements back and forth, and again, not to repeat, but very specific. Yeah, this property has access and can park here. My client's property has access and can park here. And this property has access over the frontage.
Because obviously, if there was a dispute in the future, he would not have access to his property or be in court about it.
Right, but I assure you that he does.
I believe you.
Yeah, he absolutely does. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I have another quick question on lighting. What are you doing for lighting for the garage and the gazebo?
You want to answer that one, Tony?
So the, Tony Persichilli
The
again.
garage doors are going to face your in.
So the garage door faces the driveway. Here's site plan.
See, Brian, you're better than him.
Yeah, so the garage door is right
Right
here.
there, yeah.
Horseshoe-shaped driveway. The back of the building pretty much is a blank canvas. The bathroom is here, living room is here. When I met with John and Sue earlier, they said, hey, we have a pool back here and grandkids. So I shortened the window height in my living room, both to accommodate him, and also we don't want to look in the pool. And also might block some noise with his grandkids. So pretty much there's nothing back here to say. I will need, obviously at night, I'm going to need some path lighting for safety reasons. The gazebo probably will have some LED recessed cans for lighting, because we don't want to hurt ourselves. I don't have no sports field, no lights, and,
I just want to keep it down for the neighbors.
Yeah, obviously, we're going to comply with any zoning ordinance, and I think I've owned a place 7 years, interacted with neighbors, and I think I've shown that we're good neighbors. I have great neighbors. They work with me when we were pursuing a ordinance infraction against the previous owner. The neighbors all participated and helped us with that, and I appreciate that. And it's going to be, I think it's going to be an enhancement to the area. It was a shed, burned down, parking junk vehicles, non-maintained. I mean, and we're taking pride in ownership, and it's going to be an enhancement.
And just a nosy question, how do you guys figure out the plowing for that shared parking lot? Well, you're in Fort Myers, so you're probably not worried about it.
We've been pretty lucky. You haven't been a lot of plowing, but we share the expense.
Do you?
We work real well. With 3 neighbors, work very well together, yeah.
I was just wondering how you did that part.
Now I got more driveway than them, I'll probably pay a bigger share.
Doesn't snow in Cape Cod.
Now that you've said that, we're jinxed. Yes.
Thanks, Mike. Thanks a lot.
Go ahead, Scott.
Quick question, Mr. Porcelli, since he came, we might as well give him 30 seconds of fame, and he can tell us about going from 3 bedrooms to 4.
I get paid by the word.
Okay, go ahead. Anything? Just quick overview, going 3 bedrooms to 4, anything
Oh, no,
stretch here for you, or?
no, the existing system has a capacity for 4 bedrooms. The health department reviewed it, and we proposed to tie the plumbing from the garage building that we're proposing to that tank. If I can follow up on the easement matter, it was not left off the plan on purpose. My recollection is it's a written easement that described rights over the existing driveway, so we didn't think it was necessary to delineate it on, since it's an already well-established and known easement. There was no intent to not show it.
Thank you.
How you getting on the water line in?
Very carefully.
So, by the word.
So we're going to work with the water department, but it'll be a 2-inch size water service, and it'll very likely be placed where the water department wants us to, but since there's easement rights for such things as utilities, it'll be a trench down the existing driveway. A 2-inch polyethylene pipe will run through the site and make a connection to the building. If you look closely, we did show a water service here. We didn't continue it because we want to consult with the water department about where they actually want us to route it. So there will be a 2-inch water service from Oakwood to that building.
Do you anticipate any problems with the neighbors while that goes in?
Can I jump in for a second?
Sure.
Can you scroll down? So actually,
Oh, you want to put it through here?
yeah, I apologize. So the water.
You might as well go back to the mic if you can. Nobody can hear if you don't speak.
That 10-foot stretch there,
Yeah.
that's where the existing water line is, and the water meter's on Oakwood. So the health department asked for a separate meter and a 2-inch line, but it's going to go down that
Oh, I stand corrected.
10-foot stretch there, as well as the underground electric, because the electric pole's right there also.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. No further questions.
Anybody else have any follow-ups? I appreciate you working with the neighbors. I feel it's important.
Well, I was going to say, I think where the rear of the garage faces toward the neighbors, there's not likely to be a necessity for lights installed there. So you could just have, if there is any, that they be dark sky compliant so that they're not shining toward the abutters. And then I think the other point would be that engineering likes to have some type of stormwater recharge for any new roof area. So I know you had agreed to dry wells, so I think if you either install dry wells or rain garden or something, they will want you to capture all the new roof area.
We would happily agree to conditions to both of those things, the dark sky and the dry wells,
Yeah.
adequately sized, and then Mr. Borselli will do the math.
Yeah, and it, might work well as a coordination, because I'm sure the water department's going to want you to add on the water line and all those things, so maybe they can all be done together.
Sure.
Everybody else set up here for the public?
Yep.
Anybody from the public want to comment? Come on up.
We're going to come up together, if that's okay.
That is just adorable.
She's going to chime in when I forget
Just
what I'm supposed to say.
You just need your names and addresses.
Yeah, so my name is John England, and this is Mary Sue
Hi,
England.
I'm Mary Sue Englund.
And good evening to everybody, and thanks for all the time that you take to volunteer for Falmouth, which is no mean feat. So we appreciate that. So by way of background, we live at 44 Lakeview Avenue, and it's a very modest bungalow, and it turns 100 years old in 2025, so that'll be a momentous occasion. And we're one of only 2 owners of that house in that 100-year span, which is also kind of neat. We believe that we're probably the neighbors who are most affected by the development here. You can see we're sort of off the map at the bottom there, but we're closest to the major structure that's being proposed here, which is about 40 feet long and almost 22 feet high. So it's pretty significant, and it looks directly over our swimming pool. We appreciate what Tony did in terms of trying to get the windows up a little higher. And we've got just a few issues to address, and I just go through them, one by one. We were a little bit surprised by the scope of the project. It's pretty significant, and I'm not a lawyer and I'm not an architect, but or, someone who knows all the regulations, but it seems like it's non-conforming on top of non-conforming on top of non-conforming. And so that concerns us a little bit, given how significant the project is. We're happy about the drainage. We actually, in our letter, requested an adequate drywall system, and I hope that you would definitely include that in any conditions, with the permit. As far as screening goes, I mentioned the window, but we really would like some evergreens back there in that space by the fence, and that is our fence, by the way, just if there are any issues during construction, we don't want that to get damaged. So that's an issue for us. And then sort of the final point I wanted to make, well, our house is, the lots are sort of mostly bigger than what was described earlier. Ours is .40 acres. I think Paul Dreyer's is even bigger than ours. He's got a nicer place than ours. But so there are many houses outside of this kind of weird non-conforming area with these three houses that have significantly bigger properties. And then really the final point that I wanted to make is, I hope that the zoning board will condition any approval and embrace all the recommendations from the Falmouth Engineering and Building Departments as part of conditions. So Mr. Duffy mentioned some of them earlier, but I just want to mention one more building, one that was missed, that I think is kind of significant. Here we are. And that relates to the short-term rental issue. So we were very surprised to not hear that they're willing to condition this by saying there will not be short-term rentals. That's completely new to us. That concerns us a great deal. The building department here recommended that a condition that the garage structure remain accessory to primary dwelling and shall not be conveyed separately should require this regardless of future bylaw. Building CO, I assume that's commissioner, should state no rental as proposed is extended family living. So asking for just short-term rental to be part of a condition, I think is relatively reasonable. So,
especially if it's supposed to be single-family living. So,
right.
Yeah, I just wanted to add a couple quick points that he missed.
I promised I would.
One is, as somebody mentioned, there was a structure that burned down completely on that lot, and it is sort of a narrow, windy kind of an approach to that area. I would be concerned whether or not a fire truck could actually get through there, and whether or not the fire department has been consulted as to whether or not they could access that area back there, because it's not theoretical. So that's one thing. And then
and that's easy to do. I mean, that's just a matter of getting that information.
Yeah, simple, I would hope.
Yeah.
And then, to reiterate, John just said that these first time we've heard this ADU word being used, and the fact that there could be a kitchen built at some point. We do appreciate, a few months ago, Paul Dreyer and his wife hosted a nice little get-together, and Tony came and let us know that he was planning to do this project. But we never saw any specific plans. I just want to be clear about that. So that we could have an interactive... And
there's been no contact since then.
Yeah, no contact since then. So, and, we were appreciative that he was responsive to an email that we sent, but we were not, just to be clear, had not seen any of the specific drawings or specific
until they were on the website here.
Until they were on the website here. So I just want to set that record there. I think that does it.
Frank said he can, he
Well,
will address the fire.
we requested a referral from the fire department. They did not respond. But so apparently that suggests to me they're okay.
Well, I would would like to know that a non-response to me is not an affirmative response. So if I could request that response from the fire department be provided to the abutters, I think that would go a long way to assuaging any concerns we have in that area.
I would suggest that the fire truck can certainly turn into the property. Even if it couldn't get all the way down to the end, they can drag a hose And I mean, it is,
Well, then it'll be no problem for them to
I
say,
wouldn't think there's any problem.
that'd be great
Maybe
to hear.
that's why they didn't respond, but I'm not an expert, but I can't imagine that's a huge.
Yeah, I'm not an expert either. and
Neither am I.
Would hope that that would be the case. That would be great.
And just as far as the ADU is concerned, I mean, next year, it's going to be by right. I mean,
On any
the laws
size
of the
lot
state,
or anything?
anywhere.
State.
Yeah.
Anywhere in the state, and that's.
On any size
That
lot? I
comes
have
from,
no idea.
well, in Falmouth, I believe they made it 4,000 square feet, which is pretty small, so I mean.
7,500.
7,500? Oh, okay. Well, still, they're well over that, so it's not going to be.
But that's not a short-term rental, right? ADUs are,
I don't know if they're, how limited they are, but, I mean, like I said, if they'd have just put this off till next year, it would have been by right, and they wouldn't have to come here in the first place.
For long-term rental, but you're not sure about the short-term
I'm
rental.
not sure how this
Yeah.
goes, but we certainly don't have a lot of enforcement.
I wonder if Mr. Dryer knows. He might know.
Are we done?
yeah. Thank you very much. We really do appreciate your time.
Thank you. Anybody else from the public want to speak? Should we ask Mr. Dryer if he knows
No?
about the short-term
We got
rental?
someone.
Come on up.
Thank you. Good evening. My name's David Petrone. I live at 45 Oakwood Avenue. So to try to enlighten some of you in regards, I've heard a lot of information that I greatly appreciate. I appreciated Paul having that initial meeting, which I was out of town. I was unable to attend. And again, tonight has been an eye-opening for me. I have not had any contact with Tony or anyone else since that meeting. So these drawings are brand new to me. To give you a little bit of an insight, the entire property was owned by my grandfather at one point. At the turn of the century, my house will turn 100 years old this year. And my grandfather actually purchased that property, developed that property with his father and a couple of uncles. The property that now has been divided into 3 separate properties, which ended up being better than what it was as an individual rental property, has certainly improved the value of my home. The vacant lot that Tony has since purchased, which he wants to develop, was originally owned by the Lumbert family. He owned from Oakwood Avenue right straight through to Lakeview Avenue. This lot that's vacant was actually originally part of Lakeview Avenue, which was owned by his daughter, and he wanted to expand his garden, and so he took over that and petitioned to make that part of that property. So even when the whole property was sold, however that happened, that was still like registered as Lakeview Avenue, but for whatever that reason is. The structure that was there was originally a paint shed that they turned into, I don't even want to say it was a rental property. It was a shed that had a bed in it and a bathroom and very minimal heat for that matter. Speaking of the fire truck, it was amazing. When that property did burn, the fire truck could not get there. So if you look at what originally is Tony's 10 feet, because originally those houses on that side of the house, that side of the street, they're all 100-foot frontage. The other side got divided because Falmouth changed the rules and allowed it to be 50. So again, if you drive down that road, you'll see the right-hand side towards Lakeview Avenue is all 100-foot properties, and the rest of them are all 50-foot. If you look at my house is the only house that was actually built the way my grandfather designed that property to be, with my house being in the dead center. The rest of the homes were built one side or the other once they divided it to the 50-foot frontage. So when that building was on fire, the 10-foot area was where the fire trucks tried to get down, and then they were forced to line hoses to do that. My only objection would be is hopefully if the amendments or whatever you guys, contingencies, is that it certainly would not be short-term rentals. I had another property on Oakwood Avenue, which is owned by the Hufelder property, that we came through the same board process here. They made that an auxiliary for family, and I believe that that's the way it was contingenced. And the funny thing is that when long before Tony had any part of the property, that home was actually on the market as a 4-bedroom property, not a 3-bedroom property, which is actually registered now. So that might be a concern. I don't know if it's creative accounting or how they do that. But if Tony's willing to make sure that it's not going to become, you know, a short-term rental, or I guess a year-round rental wouldn't be such an impact, but my concern would be that it's not going to be used as a retail place, just trying to make money and bringing people in, adding more noise. And I think I've covered, let me pull my glasses out, see if I covered everything. I definitely appreciate my other neighbors' comments too. I agree with that wholeheartedly. And I don't think there's only, well, I think I've lived in that neighborhood longer than anybody else. I've been there since 1959. I grew up across the street, so. Any questions for me?
We like
Yes.
history lessons.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
Has one. Frank has one.
There are 2 easements on this property. You said the fire department couldn't get there to put up...
There was not 2 easements on the property. There was
No, there's one up on the northern part between the house and the property. And then
That was the original driveway. So if you look at what originally...
When were they not able to go down?
When that wonderful shed in the backyard burnt.
No. How did they try to get to there and they couldn't get there?
Through the easement that is owned by Tony. So if you look at the front of the house, which I have no technical skills with this stuff at all, if you look at the front of the house where the dumpster is that Tony is giving them easement to put that dumpster in the porta potty.
All right.
Right? That was the original driveway that went around behind the main house, which is, I think, 33A or something like that. And then it went around, and then there was a parking lot there.
Okay.
So all of those, the main structure was owned by Myron Lumbert. He then put up, which is now where the young couple lives in the back, was a paint shed. He expanded it. He made it into an apartment. When they went through this whole transformation, they actually made a beautiful home out of it. Then where Tony lives was also a paint shed. They made that a house. That's how long I've lived in this area. And then that got totally pretty much rehabbed well before Tony owned the property, when I want to say Attorney Moynihan was representing Lewis. I can't think of his first name right now. Eddie Lewis, thank you. And they revamped that whole area, in which, going from a rental, transient rental, the property now, what the 3 houses are now, certainly has increased the value of that area. Again, my only concern is short-term rentals and keeping it to family. If he's going to let his son live there, that's fine. I have no problem with that at all. But that original easement got absorbed when they redesigned the whole property. They put the driveway, as you're looking at the house, to the left side, which directly abuts my property.
All right, well,
Am I making sense there?
Well,
if you look at that picture that the gentleman, I'm sorry, Mr. Wall, I believe, where the driveway is, if you put that driveway up for me.
Sure, happy to help.
I'll just take my notes so I don't need them. So where the driveway is right there, where his cursor is, my property abuts to the left-hand side.
okay. But that's not the access that the fire department used. They used the one...
Absolutely not. That was not there.
They used that one, but, okay.
To the right.
Thanks.
This was not there until they I'm sorry. This easement was not there until they redeveloped the whole property.
Okay, that's fine.
And I thought I made that clear. I apologize.
Now it is.
I'm sorry?
The fire trucks couldn't get down because they went through the original driveway. They had to turn behind the house.
It was a dog leg to the left. That's
They
correct.
couldn't make that turn.
Right. So then they dropped the hoses there
Yeah.
and pulled it through the back.
Now they can go down so very close. I mean, I don't think it's an issue.
It's a tight curve, but I mean,
Right,
yeah,
but
I agree.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'm good.
Anybody have any further questions for the gentleman?
Thank you for calling me a gentleman. I appreciate that. Actually, I helped some of the surveyors out with the original. I have the original blueprint. I was blessed to have that for that area.
Oh, you can back charge Borselli for that.
If you ever need it, I've got it.
Remember that, Mike.
So I think.
Come on up. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Noreen.
No, all I was going to say was, I think what may help here is that engineering assigns addresses for various parcels and developments, and what may make sense is to have engineering assign an address for the garage in the event that it is converted to a house, and that simultaneously, there's a requirement to post the address out on Oakwood so that emergency vehicles know where to turn for access.
Yeah.
There's only one access, though.
Well, there's still
The building commissioner would require that, though, or we can condition compliance with the numbering scheme that we have.
And it becomes part of 29 when the lots merge, doesn't it?
Because I think the way it's currently laid out, you still can pull in that northerly access area, right?
There's only one.
But- So you would want to direct people to that, the second.
Just need your name and address, please. I like this teamwork stuff tonight.
We were inspired.
We were. Alice in Manchester, 39 Oakwood Ave.
Matt Manchester, also 39 Oakwood Ave.
So we live in the home that shares the driveway with Mr. Persicelli most directly, so we believe that we would be most impacted by the construction of the project and also the access to the eventual garage and gazebo. And we just wanted to express our support of the project. Since the Persicellis have lived in the home and we've gotten to know them, they've been fully transparent about all of their plans, very respectful. And I think at one point it was mentioned in Mr. Wall's remarks, would this be a positive, negative, or neutral change to the neighborhood? And he said neutral, and I think we would say positive for sure, especially in light of the property's history. So we just wanted to express our support of the project.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
And Matt's the one who shovels the driveway by hand. Yeah.
Well, he's sunbathing, right?
Should have negotiated a little more.
Come on up, go ahead.
Do I need to repeat my name and stuff again? Yes? Okay.
We got you.
No, I'm a little concerned in regards to the way you were analyzing the traffic pattern. I was under the understanding, since Tony purchased that property, that it was now going to be one specific address. Am I wrong in assuming that he's absorbing 0 to 29? Am I correct, or am I wrong?
That's my understanding.
Okay, because the way this young lady was making it sound was like your garage apartment or dwelling was going to be a separate address. Am I correct?
No, so what happens is if there's more than one structure on a lot, which is what would take place here, there's typically a letter like A that is assigned to the second structure. So if the fire department gets a call for the address, they're looking to go, they're differentiating between going to the main house and going to the garage.
Understood.
So, yeah, so it won't be a separate parcel. It would just have, say, typically the letter A as the address, so that emergency vehicles are going to the correct structure.
Well, that would be a thought process, because there is already A, B, and, what, no, how did they have it on the poll? There's 3 addresses, right, okay. But no, again, as long as it's not a short-term rental, I'm good.
You want to address?
Sure. Just very briefly, so the 3 structures on the front lot all have...
I'd just like to pull a picture of the fence. I just wanted to say a couple words on this.
Okay, let me just do this first. So the 3 dwellings on the front lot all have separate addresses. I don't exactly know. There's 29, 34, but they have separate addresses.
They're on there. The front one's 33.
Oh, yeah, they're on the, that's right.
29, 33, and 39.
Okay, 29, 33, and whatever. Just really briefly, I think Mr. Duffy kind of established when the fire was in relation to when the easement was. I am not an expert, so I wouldn't purport to say whether a fire truck can get down or not, but I will tell you I was involved in the zoning enforcement matter, and one of the issues that was going on was the person that was driving down there was driving a full-size, Greyhound-size 40-foot bus, and they were able to get in there and park the bus, no problem. My client has met with neighbors, and with regard to the landscape, he's not willing to agree to a condition because we don't have a plan, so he wouldn't know what he's agreeing to, but he is willing to agree to meet with the neighbors and discuss a landscape plan with them. I wonder if I could ask the board for a poll here. We're not trying to avoid the short-term rental issue, but what I'm trying to say is that as habitable space without a kitchen, it's not legally able to be rented. So I think it's kind of going beyond the scope of the project to condition a short-term rental issue. But I'd like to know if that's going to be kind of a deal breaker, because I would not want to see the project be denied on something like that. Does the board agree with what I'm saying, or is the board concerned with this issue?
I was going to have a short-term rental condition. That's what I was hoping we were going to have.
So if that's the case, again, I think it would be illegal for my client to rent that as it is, but if the board is concerned about that, he would simply like to define what a short-term rental is, because we have this concept but without a statute or a regulation. So would it be okay to condition it that it won't be rented for terms less than 30 days?
So I think, just to clarify, at this point in time where there's no kitchen, what the board has typically done is to state that the lot as a whole is a single-family use, and that the structure, the accessory structure, cannot separately be rented. And I think that would just be in place until there's a change in the law that would otherwise allow it.
I think that would be fine, because, again, the intent is not to rent, but I know properties change hands, and therefore the board is concerned about that. What my client's trying to do is set this up that in the event he decides to stay in Florida permanently, or he gets to the point where he's going to sell the property, he's making it available for the next owner to say, oh, I could have an ADU there, which I believe are not allowed for short-term rentals. I believe that one of the state law conditions is it's long-term rentals. So we're just trying to not condition the property for the future. That's what we're...
Noreen's condition, okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Isn't short-term rental defined as under 30 days?
Well, again, there's no kitchen, so I think there's not a rental option for this at this point in time.
This condition is going to exist if he does
put a violation, it then becomes subject to both zoning as well as Board of Health restrictions, and the town could get an injunction.
Right, but I mean, I think if you have it as part of your decision that it is part of the single-family use of the lot, and that it's not separately rentable until and unless there's a change in the bylaw, right? So
Your condition's good.
I thought last week, wasn't it a short-term rental considered 30 days or less?
that was a commercial accommodation, so that was a separate arrangement that the board made for that, but that was specifically a different use.
No listening. He just wants to ask a question. Thank you.
So I think it was an American president who once said, trust but verify. So I'm a little concerned about what I'm hearing here. So what I heard most recently is that you might consider not putting a condition on no short-term rentals, because until Tony puts in a kitchen and wants to rent it as a short-term rental, it's not an issue. Or if it's an ADU, I think an ADU has certain requirements, which, whatever they are, which is fine, but it sounds like you're just lifting the short-term, rental condition completely from this outside of the future possibility of it being classified as an ADU.
She said no rentals.
Right, so I think what we're doing is sort of precluding that option, and that what you're saying now, as of today, is there's no kitchen, so there's no separate rental. So the use of the structure as of today would be part of the single-family use of the lot. And that would be in place until there's a change in the law that may allow that to be an accessory dwelling unit, in which case they put in a kitchen, someone can live there, and then they would have to abide by the laws and the rules that are attached to those.
So would it be possible to say no short-term rentals until the ADU rules come into place, as opposed to just being silent on no short-term rentals?
Well, so I think you're still saying excluding rentals, period, short-term, long-term, because...
Well, can you say that, though?
Because there's no
I
kitchen.
cannot rent that unit.
There's no kitchen.
I cannot rent the unit. So
When there's a kitchen, though, you could, right?
Hold on.
I have to get a permit.
You have to come
Yeah.
up.
So, John,
Yeah.
I cannot rent that unit. Okay? If I decide, if the law says, hey, you can rent that unit, I have to go in for a permit to rent that. At that time, whatever conditions exist or conditions that need to be put on it can be discussed at that time. But I can't rent the unit, so why would we discuss the term of that rental I can't rent?
So may I respond to that?
Sure.
So that's what concerns me. So it's like deferring this, and then whenever, conditions change and Tony puts in a kitchen and he can consider rentals, then this is a whole nother process and a different process than the one we're going through now, unless I'm completely missing something.
No, it's a different process.
Yeah.
So for now...
It's like now, I think now is the time to condition this, right?
Right, but so as of today, we have to discreetly look at what he's asking for, which is habitable space, but no kitchen. So it's not possible to rent that structure today. And so what the decision would say is that it's habitable space, overflow, part of the single-family use of the lot. So there's no rental at all. And there can't be a rental until and unless there's a bylaw change that allows the accessory dwelling unit, and at which point in time, he would have to come into compliance with that law.
So he could only rent it if it's an ADU in the future?
Correct.
Okay, so that's...
Under Mass state law, definition of short-term rental, C, a short-term rental is under 31 consecutive calendar days.
Right, but we're not...
Well, we're asking for a
We're not
short-term.
permitting a rental because there was no request and there's no
No,
kitchen.
but you're asking for a condition, and the definition of a short-term rental is under 31 consecutive calendar days.
Right. But the applicant has stated that they're not renting. So what the decision would say is it's not being rented.
It's just a
That can-
single-
So you're not attaching a term because you're saying no.
So, I mean, just theoretically, what happens a year from now? Tony does not apply for it to be used as an ADU, but he's put in a kitchen, and he would like to rent it, so that's not allowed.
If the bylaw changes that allows a use, he's entitled to make use of that, as is anyone else. So...
But it would only apply to ADUs, as I'm hearing it. Is that correct?
But the
Right.
state law is going to supersede the bylaw.
Well,
So it's going to be
and
by
the
right
town's,
next year.
the town's bylaw will match the state as well.
So he can't, regardless of the kitchen, he cannot rent that, garage until he qualifies or wanted to qualify as an ADU, and there's no other circumstance under which he's allowed to rent it at all.
Correct.
Yeah, okay, got it.
You hit it right on the money. You got it.
So not to beat a dead horse, but I think terminology is really important. Tony kept using the word unit, which I was going to jump up and say that's not correct, and Mr. Englund was saying, we have to condition this. What is this? It's habitable space above a garage. It's not a dwelling unit because you don't have a dwelling unit without cooking facilities. It can't be rented. It's not a rentable entity, period, until there's a change. And if there's a change, he has to come back before the town and get proper
I think
permits.
Noreen's language is fine.
I'm agreeable with that.
Yeah.
I think that's perfect.
Yeah. You have another question?
Yes, I do. If my memory was correct, though, I believe he is actually plumbing the establishment for a future kitchen. Am I correct?
Yep.
So the handwriting's on the wall?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else have any further questions up here? No. Anybody from the public have any further questions? We're all set? Noreen? You in
I'm
good
good.
shape? You're all set? Everybody up here?
Motion to close.
Second.
We have a motion to close. Any further discussion? All those in favor of closing?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? None. What do you want to do, Scott?
Motion to approve with conditions.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the conditions and a second. Any discussion?
Yes. We didn't discuss this during the hearing, but Mr. Wall has asked for the special permit to include a finding under Section 246.6B, which provides that you need a special permit for a garage for more than 2 cars if the garage is more than 900 square feet. This garage is 931 square feet. So whether or not he needs a special permit, I think he's just asking one. I think he used the phrase belt and suspenders. But I would move that the decision, if it's approved, include a special permit under 6.6B for the garage in excess of 900 square feet.
Thank you, Frank. Good catch on that. Where were we? We had a motion and a second.
Right. So,
Findings.
So now we need to do findings.
Okay, a little complicated here, but we'll try.
That it is.
The two properties are 0 Oakwood Avenue in Falmouth and 29 Oakwood Avenue in Falmouth. The zoning district is RC. They've applied for a special permit under Section 240-10.2A, which is respect for the house, and 246.6B to construct additions to the existing non-conforming structure and a gazebo and a detached 2-car garage with habitable space above. There's no noted overlay district, there's no, the flood zone district is X. The existing dwelling is, at number 29, is 1,400 square feet. The proposed single-family dwelling is 1,514 square feet with the 3 additions that he has asked for. The combined lot, now when the 0 lot and the 29 lot are combined, it will be 16,884 square feet in the zoning district, which requires 40,000. The street frontage remains at 10 feet in a district which requires 100. It's a public right-of-way. The plan that combines the 2 lots has been approved, or it's been represented that the plan which combines the 2 lots has been approved by the planning board and must be recorded in the registry of deeds prior to commencing any work under this special permit if it's voted. The lot coverage by structure on the combined lots will be 18.5%. The lot coverage by structure, parking, and paving on the combined lots will be 23.8%. The habitable space over the garage will have no kitchen. The nonconformity of the house on 29 Oakwood Avenue is 1.1 feet to the north. That will remain. All other dimensional requirements of the zoning bylaw are being observed. The height of the gazebo will be 15 feet 8 inches. The height of the garage will be 21 feet 9 inches. We have an 10-foot easement, which is represented will be abandoned, and access to the property will be over the driveway, which runs through the the structures on the property. We have I count 4 letters, no, excuse me, 3 letters. We have ample we had various people testifying at the hearing. With respect to the special permit under 246.6B, it is being granted because the garage is more than 900 square feet. 240.10.2A, we make a finding that the proposed addition and the additional structures will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood than the existing non-conforming structures. And under the 240.12.1E special permit, we're making a finding that the site is adequate for the proposed uses. It is suitable for the proposed uses. There's no impact on traffic flow and safety. There's no impact on neighborhood visual character, views, and vistas. There's adequate provisions for the collection and treatment of sewage. The Board of Health has so notified us there's adequate utilities and there's no impact on affordable housing. There's also, the applicant has agreed to put dry wells on the new garage structure. And he's agreed to a provision that that the habitable space over the garage will be treated as being part of the single-family use of the lot and will not be separately rented.
Do you want to do any easements in the findings?
The easement,
Per plans?
well, no, the 10-foot easement will be abandoned, and the access to the property will be over the existing easement running through the property from Oakwood Avenue.
Received testimony from the applicant concerning current motor vehicle access, which was confirmed by the property owner at Lot 3A, that access is granted to all 3 parcels over an existing paved driveway. I've wanted to find it too. The non-conforming lot size is being reduced with the merger of the lots.
Any other further findings? Can you think of any, Noreen?
Oh, I think that's good.
Conditions?
Record the plan merging the lots.
The height on the garage will have to be
It
checked?
has to be verified.
Yeah, verify. All boards?
All boards. Yeah.
Dark sky compliant.
Compliant lighting. To remain single-family use, not to exceed 4 bedrooms unless the septic is improved with a permit from Board of Health.
As stated by the applicant, that he will meet with the neighbors to discuss landscape?
Fine.
You get the dry wells.
Yep.
Yep, we got dry wells. Right?
Dry wells is one of the findings, so you can put it as a condition. They agreed to that. Or rain garden.
Construction vehicles not to block the common driveway. They need to be, there's plenty of space in the back to get this done. Don't obstruct the common driveway.
Work hours.
Standard work hours.
Work hours. Think of anything else, anybody?
The assessor has
an
requested inspection.
We did all boards, so.
Yep.
Well, we just don't want to comply with numbering of dwellings as the building inspector determines.
Yeah, engineering does the addressing, but yeah, and certainly whatever compliance they want at Oakwood so that vehicles are properly directed.
Fire department and conditions.
What are we going to say?
Can we address the fire department in conditions? I don't really
It's a
know.
private driveway.
I'm not going to make a finding, but I can tell you as a former fireman of 10 years and Oak Bluffs, I could get my fire truck through that existing driveway to the back if need be. I'd be very comfortable. I had to drive.
you're Oak
I
Bluffs
had to
people.
drive through the Camp Meeting Associate, the gingerbread cottages, full-size fire truck, so.
Those were your old blessed people
Yeah, I know.
that burned down.
And just for clarification for you, the abutters, when we're saying all boards, some of the components that you read in your when you're up at the podium, we're saying that all of those have to be applied,
Yes,
will be
right.
applied here, just so you understand that. You're welcome. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. Anybody come up with any other ones? You all set, Noreen?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. No further discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? None. You're all set. Thank you all for coming out.
Happy holidays.
All right, let's get down here. I get everything but my agenda again.
Open meeting.
There it is. Got mine, find it. All right, minutes.
November 14 only?
I'll make a motion, has everybody read November 14? I'll make a motion to accept November 14.
Second.
We have a motion and a second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Zoning updates.
I think you've seen enough of me. Weekly, yes.
Board discussion.
Just real quick, at some point, I guess we're going to meet with the selectmen, and I thought that we should maybe craft up some agenda or talking points for whenever we get
Yeah, we
closer
had a
to
date.
that date.
Have we had a date yet?
I will double check. We're supposed to have a date assigned in January. It has not been confirmed with me yet, but I will
When do you
double
come
check.
home?
I'll be around.
Yeah, second.
Just want to make the process a
Yeah.
little tighter, so we're not, it'd be just nice, I think. I like to have an agenda.
We are going to have an executive session at some point. We don't know when yet, with litigation. That's just a discussion, we don't have to discuss it. It's an update, we'll give it as an update. Any other board updates? Future agenda items. We have the 26th off.
Yes.
There you go.
When is our next?
Our next
Saturday
meeting.
meeting.
Oh,
Our next Saturday,
It's not going to be next springtime usually.
September.
September? Okay.
after I retire.
April and September, right?
yeah, we did one
In the spring.
Yeah,
Let's
in
get
the
through the
spring.
winter
Yeah.
first.
So we're all set, right?
Yes.
After we get back to meeting twice a month.
Our next meeting is December 19th at 6, and now we're calling on Mark to do his job.
Motion to adjourn and watch the hockey game.
There you go. Second. All those in favor of adjourning? Aye. Here we go.